Welcome to our deep dive, everyone. Today it's all about the life of Jose Rizal, the Philippine national hero.
Okay.
We've got some excerpts from his biography and a handful of articles that are really thought-provoking.
For sure.
You know, I have to admit, before I got into all of this material, I kind of had this impression that Rizal was, just a revolutionary figure.
Right.
But his story is so much richer than that.
Way more than that.
It's really.
Yeah, he's often called a Renaissance man, and I don't think that's hyperbole at all.
Wow.
We're talking doctor, writer, linguist, artist, activist.
Yeah.
Even did some sculpting and fencing.
Really?
Makes you wonder if there was anything he wasn't good at.
It's true. It really is.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. And the fact that he achieved all of this while constantly pushing for social and political reform in the Philippines.
At the same time,
I mean, it's
amazing.
So let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Rizal was born in 1861 to a pretty well-off family, and his mother, Teodora Alonso, seems to have been like a major influence on his life,
Oh, absolutely.
especially when it comes to his education and his love for his homeland.
Yeah, she instilled in him a love of learning, for sure, but also this belief that education was the key to uplifting the Filipino people.
Wow.
This idea would become a cornerstone of his whole life's work.
Yeah, I'm seeing that in the sources, too, about his early education.
Mm-hmm.
He was homeschooled initially and then went on to excel at Ateneo Municipal de Manila and the University of Santo Tomas.
Yep.
But then there's a twist.
Okay.
He leaves the Philippines to continue his medical studies in Europe.
He did.
Why is that?
Well, on the surface, he wanted to specialize in ophthalmology.
Right.
And that was partly to help his mother, who was having vision problems.
Right.
But the sources also kind of suggest that he faced some discrimination from Spanish students and faculty back in the Philippines.
Okay.
So leaving for Europe wasn't just about academic advancement. It was about escaping a system that was holding him back because of his ethnicity.
Wow. So it wasn't just like, oh, I want to further my studies. It was like, I'm being held back here.
Yeah.
I need to get out.
Exactly. Needed a change.
Wow. So he ends up studying in Spain, France, and Germany, right? He even spent some time living with a Protestant pastor, Reverend Karl Ulmer.
Yeah.
In Germany. It sounds like he really embraced different cultures and perspectives.
Yeah, he did. And this is where we start to see his political consciousness taking shape.
Wow.
Living in Europe, he saw firsthand the freedoms and rights that Filipinos were denied under Spanish colonial rule.
Right.
So he connected with other Filipino intellectuals who were involved in the propaganda movement.
Okay.
This was a group that used writing and publications to advocate for reforms back home.
Okay.
This wasn't about inciting revolution at this point.
Okay.
They believed in achieving change through peaceful means.
Okay.
Writing and education and things like that.
So using their words to try to enact change.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It's amazing how this time abroad kind of set the stage for everything he would later become known for.
Yeah, it really did.
Speaking of things he's known for, let's talk about his incredible linguistic abilities. The man spoke over 20 languages.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, how is that even possible?
It's crazy, right? I mean, it really shows his intellectual curiosity and this dedication to understanding different cultures.
Wow.
And it wasn't just about speaking the languages. He was fluent in a lot of them.
Oh, wow.
Which allowed him to immerse himself in a huge range of literature and philosophical thought.
Oh, that is.
So this multilingualism is really important when we get to his novels because he used language as a tool to connect with different audiences and expose the injustices of colonial rule.
Right, because if he could speak the languages of all the people who are being...
Exactly.
There,
he could reach them directly.
You could reach them directly. That's a great point.
Yeah.
You can't talk about Rizal without talking about Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo.
You can't.
These weren't just novels. It was like social and political commentary.
Yeah.
Masquerading as fiction.
Exactly. Noli Me Tangere, which was published in 1887, really shook things up in the Philippines.
Okay.
It exposed the corruption and brutality of the Spanish colonial government and the Catholic Church in a way that Filipinos really connected with.
Wow.
And I think for many people, it was like seeing their own struggles reflected on the page, which helped fuel a growing sense of national identity and a desire for change.
Yeah, like, whoa, this is what we've been going through. And he's putting words to it.
Putting it right out there.
Wow. And then El Filibusterismo, the sequel, gets even darker.
It does.
It grapples with revolution, revenge, and the consequences of oppression.
Yeah, El Filibusterismo, which was published in 1891, is a much more complex and challenging work.
Okay.
Rizal doesn't offer easy answers.
Right.
Instead, he explores different paths to freedom, including violent uprising.
Wow.
And he forces readers to confront the potential costs of each. You know, you can see him really wrestling with these very real dilemmas that the Philippines was facing at the time.
It sounds like a really intense read.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's fascinating how he used fiction to spark this national conversation about the future of the Philippines.
Yeah.
But his writing went beyond novels, right? He also wrote poems, essays, and even translated classic works into Tagalog.
He did.
It's almost like he wanted to make knowledge and literature accessible to everyone.
That's exactly it.
Not just the elite.
Rizal believed that an educated populace was essential for social progress and empowerment.
Right.
Translating works into Tagalog wasn't just about sharing stories. It was about making knowledge accessible to Filipinos who didn't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
Which was the language of power and privilege at the time.
So giving power back to the people, in a way.
In a way, yeah.
So we have this incredibly talented individual who's not only a prolific writer, but also a doctor.
Yeah.
And a passionate advocate for reform in his homeland.
Yeah.
I mean, what's not to admire?
I know, it's incredible.
Sadly, this outspokenness and his powerful writing eventually landed him in trouble with the Spanish authorities.
It did. And this is where we see the tragic irony of Rizal's story.
Oh.
He consistently advocated for peaceful reform, believing in dialogue and education as the path to progress.
Right.
But the Spanish authorities, they saw his writings, which exposed their injustices and inspired this nationalist sentiment as a threat to their power.
So even though he was calling for peace, they saw his writing as dangerous.
Exactly.
Because it was inspiring.
It was powerful.
Too much change.
Too much change.
Wow. So in 1892, he was arrested and exiled to Dapitan, which is a remote town in Mindanao. You'd think being forced into exile would break someone's spirit. But the sources suggest that he continued to work for the betterment of those around him, even in those circumstances.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It really is. Even in exile, he refused to be silenced.
Yeah.
He practiced medicine, taught, and continued to write. He even used his engineering skills to improve the town's infrastructure.
Yeah.
It's like exile didn't even...
It didn't stop him.
Stop him.
This period in Dapitan really showcases his incredible resilience and his unwavering commitment to his principles.
That's truly inspiring.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, things were about to take a dark turn for Rizal with the outbreak of the Philippine Revolution.
Right.
Let's pause here for a moment and kind of let all of this sink in.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground, from his childhood to his incredible talents and his exile, all leading up to this really pivotal moment in Philippine history.
Yeah.
It's a story of brilliance, resilience, and the enduring power of ideas.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see where it goes next.
Me too.
You know, it's hard to believe that despite everything Rizal had already accomplished, the writing, the activism, the medical work, the most dramatic chapter of his life was still ahead of him.
It's true. History is full of unexpected turns. And in Rizal's case, the outbreak of the Philippine Revolution in 1896 really changed everything.
Led by the Katipunarite.
That's right. A revolutionary society fighting for independence from Spain.
It's tragic because even though he wasn't directly involved with them, the Spanish authorities saw him as a symbol of the rebellion.
Oh, for sure.
This dangerous influencer whose ideas helped to ignite the flames of revolution.
Exactly. His writings had awakened this sense of national consciousness and this desire for change that the Spanish regime just couldn't control.
Yeah, they couldn't put it back in the bottle.
Nope. So despite advocating for peaceful reform throughout his life, Rizal was arrested.
Wow.
Accused of sedition and rebellion and put on trial.
And we know the outcome of that trial.
Yeah.
Convicted and sentenced to death. It's heartbreaking to think that a man who dedicated his life to fighting for his people's rights through education and enlightenment,
through peaceful means,
was ultimately silenced by the very forces he sought to change.
It's a sobering reminder of how power reacts to challenges to its authority, even when those challenges come from a place of peace and reason.
Right. It's like they just couldn't handle the truth.
Nope. And it speaks volumes about the power of ideas to inspire change, both positive and from the perspective of those in power threatening.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is.
You know, one detail that really struck me in the sources is the account of his execution.
Okay.
Mentions that the firing squad was ordered to use only one live bullet, with the rest being blanks.
Interesting.
It almost seems like a sign of respect. Or was it just some morbid game?
It's a detail that sparked a lot of debate among historians. Some believe it was a way for certain soldiers, maybe those who sympathize with Rizal or recognize the injustice, to alleviate their own guilt in carrying out the execution. Others argue it was simply a matter of military protocol.
So we don't really know for sure.
We don't know for sure, but either way, it adds another layer of complexity to an already tragic event.
It's almost like even in death, he was able to inspire compassion and a sense of moral conflict in those around him.
That's a good point.
And then there's that anecdote about the firing squad's dog whining around his body after he was shot. It just adds to the emotional weight of the moment and highlights the senselessness of it all.
Absolutely. It's these small human details that bring history to life and remind us that even the most significant historical figures were real people with lives, loves, and losses.
And in Rizal's case, his loss was a profound one.
It was.
For the Philippines.
That was loss.
Because even though his life was cut short at just 35 years old, his death actually became a turning point in the Philippine Revolution.
It did. It galvanized the resistance movement and made him a martyr for the cause of independence.
It's like the Spanish authorities achieved the exact opposite of what they intended.
Ironic, isn't it? Their attempt to silence him only amplified his message and fueled the revolution.
Wow. And that influence continues to this day.
It does.
I mean, Rizal is considered the national hero of the Philippines.
He is.
And his legacy is celebrated all over the country.
Absolutely. He's more than just a historical figure. He's a national icon whose life and work continue to inspire generations of Filipinos.
I mean, you see his image on the Philippine peso.
You do.
His writings are studied in schools. His birthday, June 19, is a national holiday.
That's a big deal.
But his legacy extends beyond national borders as well, right?
It does. His ideas about social justice, the importance of education, the need to challenge oppressive systems, those resonate with people all over the world.
It's universal.
It is.
And he was ahead of his time in so many ways.
In so many ways.
His call for an intellectual revolution, where education and knowledge are used as tools for social change, is something that feels incredibly relevant in today's world.
Especially today,
where access to information and critical thinking skills are more important than ever.
For sure. It's like he knew what was coming.
Before we wrap up this part, I have to ask about some of those, wow, I didn't know that, facts about Rizal. The sources are full of them.
Oh, there are so many good ones. What do you want to hear about?
Okay, well, how about this? During his exile in Dapitan, he actually won a lottery prize. And instead of keeping the money for himself, he used it to improve the lives of the people in the community.
Talk about putting your principles into action.
Yeah, he could have easily used that money to escape or make his own life more comfortable.
He could have.
But he chose to help others.
It really shows his character and his unwavering belief in community and social responsibility.
And remember how calm he was before his execution?
Yeah.
Well, a surgeon who examined him before the firing squad noted his unusually calm pulse.
That's right. There's actual medical evidence of his composure in the face of death.
Wow, that gives me chills. He truly was an exceptional human being.
He was.
And speaking of exceptional, his vinyl poem, Mi Ultimo Adios, is a masterpiece.
It really is. A farewell to his homeland, a reflection on his life, and a call for Filipinos to continue fighting for freedom.
And get this. He hid the poem inside a gas lamp.
He did.
In his prison cell. And it was given to his family after his death.
Incredible, right? Talk about a dramatic exit.
Talk about leaving a lasting impression. And here's one that really surprised me. Rizal had some pretty tense encounters with Chinese merchants during his time in the Philippines.
It's true.
It just shows how complex the social dynamics were back then.
Yeah, it reminds us that history is never black and white. It's full of nuances and competing perspectives.
I'm officially blown away. Rizal was more than just a hero. He was a complex and fascinating individual who left a real mark on the world.
He did.
But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on his legacy today. What can we in the 21st century learn from Jose Rizal's life and work?
I think his message is more relevant now than ever. He reminds us of the importance of critical thinking, questioning authority, and fighting for justice.
You know, his call for an intellectual revolution, using education and knowledge as tools for social change. That's something we should all embrace.
Absolutely. And that commitment to education wasn't just about reading books. It was about empowering individuals.
To think for themselves.
Exactly. To help them think for themselves and to challenge the status quo. That's a really powerful message, especially today, where information is so readily available, but also so easily manipulated.
It's a lot to sift through.
It is. Rizal's life encourages us to be informed, engaged citizens.
To make our voices heard?
Yeah, to use our voices to advocate for positive change and to never stop learning and growing.
And to do it all with compassion,
yes,
integrity,
and a deep love for humanity.
It's inspiring.
His story is a powerful reminder that one person can make a difference.
Yeah.
That ideas can change the world and that the pursuit of justice is a fight worth fighting.
What a powerful legacy. And it all started with a young boy from the Philippines who dared to dream of a better future for his people.
It's amazing.
But before we get too sentimental, I think it's time to shift gears and explore some of the more concrete ways
Okay.
Rizal's legacy is manifested. How about we look at some of the physical places and institutions that carry his name and his message forward? It's interesting when you think about his lasting impact. It's not just his ideas, it's like literally etched onto the landscape of the Philippines.
You're so right. His legacy is visible everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the Rizal Monument in Manila,
Right.
where his remains are enshrined.
Yeah.
The Jose Rizal Memorial Protected Landscape in Dapitan.
Right.
And countless schools, parks, streets named after him all over the country.
Wow. It's amazing to think over a century after his death,
I know.
he's still so present
Yeah.
in Filipino society.
It's incredible.
And these places aren't just memorials, they're active reminders of his message and his sacrifice.
Absolutely. They serve as spaces for reflection, education, inspiration.
Yeah.
For Filipinos, they offer a tangible connection to their national history
Right.
and a reminder of what he fought for.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, are there any living descendants of Rizal today? He was only 35 when he was executed.
Yeah.
It seems possible.
It is possible. While Rizal himself had no children who survived infancy, there are descendants of his siblings.
Oh, so like nieces, nephews?
Exactly. Some have even become quite prominent in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
Like the mayor of Calamba,
Oh, really?
Rizal's hometown.
It's like his spirit lives on through them, inspiring them to make a difference in their own ways.
It's true. And it reinforces that his message continues to resonate across generations.
Absolutely. A message of hope, resilience, the pursuit of a just and equitable society.
Yeah,
Values that remain incredibly relevant even today.
for sure.
Speaking of relevance, if Rizal were alive today, what causes do you think he would champion?
That's a great question.
What issues would ignite his passion and drive his advocacy?
Well, given his dedication to education, social justice, I imagine he would be a vocal advocate for educational equity and economic opportunity.
Yeah.
He was deeply concerned about poverty and inequality during his time.
Right.
So those issues would still be central to his work today.
I think so too. And knowing his commitment to the Filipino people, I bet he'd also be a strong voice for environmental sustainability in the Philippines.
Absolutely. He was a lover of nature, understood the importance of preserving the environment.
Yeah.
I have no doubt he'd be at the forefront of efforts to protect the Philippines' natural beauty and resources.
It's incredible to think about the impact one person can have.
Yeah.
I mean, Rizal wasn't a superhero. He was a writer, a doctor, an intellectual who used his voice and his pen to fight for what he believed in.
And in doing so, sparked a revolution, changed the course of history, and left behind a legacy that continues to inspire people all over the world.
It's amazing.
His story is a testament to the power of ideas, the importance of standing up for what's right, and the enduring strength of the human spirit.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the extraordinary life of Jose Rizal.
Oh.
I hope you've enjoyed this journey
Me too.
and come away with a deeper understanding of the man behind the legend.
Absolutely.
We encourage you to explore Rizal's writings for yourselves
Yes.
and to reflect on how his message of hope, resilience, and the pursuit of justice can inspire your own lives.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
See you next time.